For a moment, just listen. There is a whisper in the early morning darkness, a whisper that does not come from outside, but from somewhere deep within you. It calls your name gently, almost trembling with urgency, as if heaven itself is waiting for you to open your eyes, waiting for your first breath, waiting for the very first thought you will offer to God today. And if you listen closely, if you truly pause, you will feel it. That quiet pull towards something bigger than your worries, deeper than your fears, and stronger than anything you have been carrying. This is the moment heaven leans close, waiting for your gratitude to unlock what the day has already been prepared to give you. The morning is a sacred place, a holy doorway between yesterday and everything God has written for your life today. When we wake, we don't just rise from sleep. We rise from old battles, old anxieties, old disappointments, and step into a new mercy that God has placed gently at our bedside. So many people open their eyes and immediately step back into yesterday's storms. But gratitude, true gratitude, pulls you into a different realm. It lifts you out of heaviness and sets your feet inside God's presence, where peace flows like a river. And strength is not something you fight for, but something that rises naturally inside your spirit. When I speak this prayer of gratitude, I speak it not as a ritual, but as a breath of life. Gratitude is not simply thank you, spoken into the air. Gratitude is the language of faith. It is the declaration that says, God, even before I see the blessing, even before the breakthrough comes, even before I understand the path, I trust that you are good. And I thank you for what you have already set into motion. And when a person begins the morning with that kind of heart, all of heaven responds. There were days when I woke up with burdens so heavy I could barely lift my head. Days when the world around me looked uncertain and every door seemed closed. But every time I bowed my head in the quiet of dawn and whispered, Lord, thank you for this breath, for this moment, for your presence with me, something changed. Not outside first, but inside. My heart steadied, my mind quieted, and the power of God began to rise like sunlight breaking through the thickest clouds. Gratitude invites God into the hidden rooms of your life. And when God enters, darkness cannot stay. Think of the mornings when you rushed out of bed, already swallowing stress before your feet touched the floor. You carried burdens that didn't belong to a heart designed to trust. But imagine a different rhythm. Imagine waking up slowly, breathing in the silence of a new morning and saying, Lord, thank you for waking me. Thank you for being with me before I even stood up. Thank you for going ahead of me into this day. Feel how different that is. Feel how the weight begins to lift, how your chest loosens, how your spirit rises. Gratitude is powerful because it shifts your focus. It pulls your eyes away from what is missing and opens them to what God has already placed around you. It teaches your soul to see the blessings hidden in ordinary moments, the breath, your lungs, the light outside your window, the strength you didn't know you had. And each of these moments is God saying, I am with you. When your heart learns to see Him in the small things, it becomes easier to trust Him for the bigger things. There is a verse I often held close in the early hours. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Not tomorrow. Not when everything becomes perfect. Not when life finally aligns with your desires. This day, this imperfect, fragile, beautiful day is the one God handcrafted for you. And if God made it, then it must carry something intentional, something divine, something designed specifically for your growth, your peace, your blessing. Gratitude opens your hands to receive it. Perhaps you have felt lately that your prayers go unanswered. Perhaps you rise each morning with questions that linger in the shadows of your mind. Lord, why am I still struggling? Why hasn't my situation changed? But gratitude teaches you to trust even without clarity. It teaches you to walk by faith when sight is limited. Gratitude does not deny your pain. It simply refuses to let pain become your anchor. It anchors you instead to the goodness of God, the goodness that never stops flowing, even when life feels heavy. There is a story of a woman who came to me years ago. Her heart was tired, her spirit dimmed. She said, "Pastor, I pray, but I feel nothing. I thank God, but my life still feels like a valley." And I told her gently, "Child of God, gratitude does not always remove the valley, but it puts a light in your hand so you can walk through it without stumbling." Weeks later, she came back, and her eyes were different, brighter, calmer. She said, "I didn't receive my miracle yet, but I received peace." And I told her, peace is the first miracle. God moves first in your heart, then in your life. And when your heart begins the day with gratitude, you create space for God to work freely. You begin to notice blessings you overlooked, answers you didn't recognize, and signs of God's nearness that were always there, but hidden behind worry. Gratitude doesn't make life perfect. It makes your spirit ready. So, as you breathe in this moment, let your heart whisper its own quiet prayer. Lord, thank you. Thank you for this new day, this new beginning, this new mercy. Guide my steps, calm my spirit, and let your presence be the first thing I feel as I rise. And even if you don't feel anything at first, stay in that posture. Stay in that stillness. Stay in that early morning surrender. Because gratitude is planting seeds in your spirit that will grow throughout the day. Seeds of peace, resilience, and hope. As this first part comes to a gentle close, let this truth settle inside you. God is already ahead of you, preparing, shaping, aligning, strengthening. Gratitude opens the door to His presence. Trust that what He starts in your morning, He will carry through your entire day. Rest in that. Breathe in that. And hold on to the quiet assurance that God's plan for you today is wrapped in love, purpose, and protection. And as the morning light slowly begins to stretch across the horizon, something delicate happens inside the heart. The spirit becomes more aware, more sensitive, more open to the quiet movements of God. Gratitude, once whispered in the stillness, begins to move like gentle waves through the soul, softening places that had grown hard, warming places that had grown cold. And this is where the real transformation begins, not in the noise of life, but in the soft unfolding of the heart that has learned to start the day with God. There are moments in life when we walk through seasons that feel like unanswered questions. Sometimes it feels as if we are standing in the middle of a long hallway, with closed doors on either side, unsure of which direction to take. But gratitude teaches us something profound. Even when doors remain closed, the presence of God remains open. Even when decisions feel overwhelming, the love of God provides a quiet reassurance that you are not walking alone. The morning prayer of gratitude becomes a steady hand that holds you, reminding you that God sees you, even when you feel unseen. I often think of those early years of ministry, when I had nothing but faith to hold on to. There were mornings when I woke up unsure of how the day would unfold, unsure of how God would provide, unsure of whether the challenges before me would break me or build me. But every time I placed my hand over my heart and said, "Lord, thank you. You for what you will do today," I felt strength I did not have the day before. Gratitude is not a formality, it is a doorway. And once you step through it, you begin to see the fingerprints of God everywhere. You may have experienced mornings when your heart felt heavy, as if hope had slipped quietly out of the night. Maybe you sat on the edge of your bed, staring at the floor, wondering how you would make it through. Another day of responsibilities, expectations, or silent battles no one else knows about. But when you whisper gratitude in that moment, when you thank God even through tears, you are choosing faith over fear. Gratitude is not the denial of struggle. It is the declaration that struggle does not have the final word. There is a verse that often rises in the quiet of dawn. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God for you. Not for everything, but in everything. In the middle of uncertainty, give thanks. In the middle of waiting, give thanks. In the middle of the storm, give thanks. Because gratitude refocuses the heart. It shifts your gaze from the storm to the one who calms it. When you begin the morning wrapped in gratitude, you wrap your day in God's peace. I once met a young man who told me he had lost his sense of purpose. He said every morning felt the same empty, colorless, heavy. He told me he prayed, but his prayers felt mechanical. And I said to him, before you ask God for anything in the morning, pause and thank Him for something. He started small. Thank you for breath. Thank you for waking me. Thank you for giving me another day. And slowly, his heart began to change. He told me weeks later, Pastor, my life looks the same, but I feel different inside. That is the quiet power of gratitude. It shifts the soul, even before it shifts the circumstances. Sometimes, what you think is the end is really the beginning of something God is preparing. The morning is the reminder of that truth. If God trusted you with another sunrise, it means your story is not finished. Your purpose is not complete. Your miracle is not lost. Gratitude opens your eyes to that quiet hope. It teaches you to say, Lord, I don't understand everything, but I trust you. And I thank you for what you are doing even in the unseen. There is a tenderness in the way God works. He does not rush. He does not forget. He does not abandon. And when you begin your day with gratitude, you begin to see this tenderness woven into the small details of your life. The conversation that gives you encouragement. The unexpected moment of clarity. The sense of calm that covers you when you should have been anxious. Gratitude awakens you to these divine threads, reminding you that God is closer than you think. Perhaps there are things in your life right now that feel unfinished. Prayers that feel suspended in time. Hopes that feel delayed. But gratitude teaches you patience. It teaches you to trust that God is not late, He is precise. And every morning you thank Him. You lift your heart above worry and place it gently into His hands. Gratitude is an act of surrender. It is saying, Lord, even if I do not see the whole path, I trust the one who guides me. As this part comes to a gentle pause, let this truth rest in your spirit. The morning you begin with gratitude becomes a day covered with grace. And the heart that remembers to thank God at sunrise will be the heart that recognizes Him at sunset. Trust that He is shaping your day with purpose, covering your steps with mercy, guiding your spirit with love, even when you cannot yet see the full picture. And as the day continues to unfold in your imagination, you may notice something beginning to change in the atmosphere of your heart. What started as a quiet whisper of gratitude in the early morning has now become a steady rhythm inside you. Soft, constant, alive. Gratitude has a way of reshaping the way you see the world, not by altering your circumstances, but by altering the lens through which your spirit looks at life. And when that shift happens, even the smallest moments begin to feel sacred. There are seasons in our lives when we walk through silent battles, those private struggles that no one else can see. You smile, but your heart is trembling. You speak calmly, but your soul feels unsettled. You keep moving forward, but something deep inside is weary. And yet, when you begin your day by opening your heart in gratitude to God, you create a shelter within your own spirit. You give yourself a place to breathe, to rest, to simply exist in the presence of the one who understands every weight you carry. I think of a man who once shared his story with me. He had been searching for answers for years, trying to fix everything with human strength alone. He said the pressure felt like a mountain sitting on his chest. One morning, after reaching his breaking point, he whispered something he had never truly said before: God, thank you for staying with me even when I didn't notice. And he told me later that those words changed him, not because his problems disappeared, but because he finally felt God beside him. Gratitude does that. It opens your eyes to the divine presence that has been there all along. There is a moment in Scripture where Jesus gives thanks before a miracle happens, before the bread multiplies, before the crowd is fed, before the impossible becomes possible. He lifts his eyes and gives thanks, not after the miracle, before it. That is the heart of gratitude. It sees God's faithfulness, even in places where breakthrough hasn't arrived yet. It declares, Lord, I trust you with what I cannot see. And when you begin your day with that kind of faith, you invite God to move in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. Some mornings you may wake with questions that weigh heavily on your chest. Questions about your future, your family, your finances, your relationships, your health. Questions that echo in the silence. But gratitude does not demand answers. It creates peace in the midst of the unknown. It teaches you to rest in the truth that God sees the entire journey, even while you see only the next step. Gratitude is the reminder that God works in layers, some visible, some hidden, all purposeful. Maybe you have prayed for something for a long time and wonder if God still hears you. Maybe you have waited through long seasons of uncertainty and feel as if time has stood still. Yet every morning you choose gratitude. You water the seeds of faith that God planted in your heart long ago. And one day those seeds will break through the soil of your life in ways you never expected. Gratitude does not speed up God's timing, but it strengthens your spirit while you wait. There was a woman who once told me that every morning she woke with fear sitting heavy in her chest. She feared losing her job, feared her family falling apart, feared the future. But she began every morning to thank God not for a perfect life, but for His presence in her imperfect one. Over time, her fears began to loosen. Not because everything became easy, but because gratitude replaced panic with peace. She learned that God does not promise a life without storms, but He promises a heart that will not be destroyed by them. Sometimes we forget that the morning is not just another part of our day, it is an invitation. God invites you to step into His presence before you step into your responsibilities. He invites you to breathe deeply before you carry the weight of your tasks. He invites you to notice His hand before you notice your burdens. When you begin with gratitude, you begin with God. And anything that begins with God carries His peace, His guidance, and His strength. There may be unfinished chapters in your life, unanswered prayers, unresolved situations, but gratitude builds a bridge between where you are and where God is taking you. It is a quiet reminder that God is not done with your story. Each new morning is His way of saying, I am still writing. Keep trusting me. As this part comes to a soft pause, let your heart settle into this gentle truth. The God who watched over you through the night is the same God who walks with you through the morning, the same God who stands beside you through every hour of your day. And as long as you begin with gratitude, you will carry His peace with you no matter what comes. And as we move deeper into this journey of the morning prayer of gratitude, something begins to settle gently within your spirit, a recognition, a quiet awareness, a soft unfolding of truth. Gratitude is no longer just a word you speak at sunrise. It becomes a way of breathing, a way of seeing the world, a way of living your faith, even in the moments that feel heavy or uncertain. It is the anchor that holds you steady when your emotions shift, the compass that guides you when your path feels unclear, the gentle hand of God reminding you that you are never walking alone. There are days when life feels like a weight pressing down on your chest. Days when you wake up already tired, already overwhelmed, already bracing yourself for challenges you didn't ask for. But when you begin your morning with gratitude, something miraculous happens. The weight does not disappear, but it loses its power. Worry does not vanish, but it no longer controls your breathing. Fear may still whisper, but it cannot drown out the voice of God. Gratitude places your heart in a different atmosphere, an atmosphere of trust, where you remember who holds your future, who walks beside you, and who strengthens you when your own strength runs thin. I think of a story I once heard about a man who carried great responsibility, family, work, financial pressures, expectations from every direction. Each morning he woke up with a knot in his stomach, thinking of everything that demanded his attention. But one day he said, "Lord, before I carry any of these burdens, let me carry gratitude." And from that day forward, he began each morning with a simple prayer. Thank you for giving me more than I deserve. Thank you for standing with me in what I cannot control. Thank you for going ahead of me today. And slowly the knot in his stomach loosened. Not because his responsibilities ended, but because gratitude reminded him that God was helping him carry what he once carried alone. The morning prayer of gratitude is powerful because it shifts the heart from survival to trust. It reminds you that even in uncertainty, God is preparing something beautiful. Even in delay, God is aligning what you cannot yet see. Even in moments of silence, God is speaking in ways deeper than words. Gratitude teaches you to recognize the subtle movements of God in the ordinary rhythm of your day, an unexpected moment of peace, a conversation that lifts your spirit, a small blessing that reassures you that heaven is closer than it seems. There is a verse that rises softly in mornings of reflection. His mercies are new every morning, not recycled, not repeated, new, fresh, hand-delivered to your heart by a God who knows exactly what today requires. When you wake and say, "Thank you, Lord," you open your soul to receive these mercies. You become aware of His presence in places where you once saw only routine. You begin to feel Him in the quiet, hear Him in the stillness, trust Him in the unknown. Gratitude prepares your heart to notice God's fingerprints on the moments you would have otherwise rushed past. You may have walked through storms that left you bruised or valleys that tested your endurance. But gratitude teaches you that even in those places, God was working. Even in tears, He was holding you. Even in confusion, He was guiding you step by step. Gratitude does not erase your past, but it redeems how you carry it. It turns memories of pain into testimonies of survival. It turns long nights of worry into reminders of God's faithfulness. It turns scars into stories of grace. There was a woman who once stood in my office with trembling hands. She told me, "I don't know how to thank God while I'm hurting." And I said to her, "You don't have to thank Him for the hurt. Thank Him for staying with you in it." And she wept because for the first time, she realized she was not alone. That is the power of gratitude. It opens your eyes to the presence of God standing beside you in every season. Sometimes, the hardest mornings are the ones that require the deepest faith. The mornings when you wake up with questions that don't yet have answers. The mornings when you look at your life and wonder when things will change. But it is in those mornings that gratitude becomes strongest. Because gratitude is not dependent on circumstance. It is anchored in trust. It is rooted in the unchanging character of God. And when you hold on to that, you walk through your day with a strength that is not your own. As we reach the end of this part, let this truth sink deeply into your spirit. Every morning you begin with gratitude. You invite God to walk with you, not behind you, not ahead of you only, but beside you. Step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment. And as you carry gratitude through your day, You carry peace. You carry hope. You carry the quiet assurance that God is moving in ways you cannot yet see. And now, as the echoes of this journey begin to quiet in your spirit, let your heart breathe deeply for a moment. Let the stillness settle. Let the nearness of God wrap around you like a warm, gentle light. You have walked through the mystery of the morning, through the whisper of gratitude, through the quiet strength of trust, through the soft unfolding of God's peace. And now, as this message comes to its final breath, something inside you has shifted, something subtle, something sacred, something only God Himself could awaken. You began this journey by listening to the whisper hidden in the early morning darkness, that first invitation from heaven calling you to rise. And now, after walking through these 4 parts, you stand in a different place inside your heart. Gratitude has taken root. Peace has found a home. Hope has lifted its head again. The morning prayer is no longer simply a practice. It has become a rhythm in your spirit, a doorway into the presence of a God who loves you with a depth far beyond words. As you step into the days ahead, remember this: every morning you wake, heaven leans close to you. God does not wait for you to be perfect. He does not wait for your life to be organized, or your emotions to be stable, or your future to be clear. He meets you right where you are, in your uncertainty, in your longing, in your quiet faith, in your fragile hope. And when you begin your day with gratitude, you open your heart to the God who already prepared blessings, strength, and mercy for you before the sun even touched the earth. Never forget that the presence of God is not loud, it is steady. It is not always dramatic, but it is always faithful. He stands beside you when the world feels heavy. He lifts you when your spirit feels tired. He guides you even when you feel lost. And every morning that you whisper, "Thank you, Lord," you align your life with His peace, His purpose, His tender love for you. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but gratitude reminds you who holds tomorrow. You may not see how your story will unfold, but gratitude reminds you that the author of your life has never once abandoned a chapter. You may not understand the timing, but gratitude teaches you to trust the one who sees the whole path long before you take the first step. And now, as this message settles into your heart, let me leave you with a final prayer. A simple prayer, a peaceful prayer. Lord, thank you for being near. Thank you for watching over every step I take. Thank you for blessing me in ways I see and in ways I do not yet understand. Teach me to begin every morning with gratitude, to trust your timing, to rest in your presence, and to walk through each day with a heart anchored in your love. Guide my steps, calm my thoughts, strengthen my spirit, and let your peace be the atmosphere I breathe. Today, tomorrow, and always I am in your hands. Amen. Carry this prayer with you. Let it rise in the dawn. Let it steady you in the day. Let it comfort you in the night. And may gratitude become the quiet song of your soul, the song that reminds you that you are held, you are guided, and you are deeply, eternally loved by God.